going on, you guys? It's Ariel here. Welcome back to the Gamer's Respite. Today, I not only have a good friend with me here, but I have an awesome content creator, Fightin Cowboy, who you might have seen on my other channel, but I've migrated all of the podcast episodes to this channel. So not only are we going to be talking about Souls and Souls-like stuff, we're also going to be talking about Magic the Gathering. We're going to be talking about Monster Hunter. We're also going to be talking about Nightreign, which is set to come out. I forget the date. Holy shit. When is this set to come out again?
End of May.
End of
Right
May.
at the end of May.
So hold on to your pants. It's going to be fun. We have a lot of shit to talk about today, even like workout stuff, because it's like we're not only content creators, we're people. We enjoy different hobbies. We enjoy different stuff. So I figured we get into all the things. How are you today? I hope you're doing well.
Good. Just getting ready for all the releases.
There's been a lot.
Yeah. It's been a very busy spring, and it's only ramping up more as we get deeper into the year. So
yeah, I have to ask, how did you find Kazan? Because I wanted to play that game. I just have been on the edge of it because people have been telling me it's like Neo, and I did not like Neo.
it is like Neo, but Neo 2 is like my favorite Souls-like. So for me, Kazan was like an easy 5 out of 5. I loved it.
Oh, nice.
It's like Neo meets Sekiro because it has like the gear and the optimization and the set building that you have in Neo, but then the combat is a lot closer to Sekiro in the sense of like, you know, you're perfect deflects, you're perfect dodging. You have something that's called a burst counter. It's basically a Makiri counter. Like you can only do it against key attacks. But so it has that like that high octane. Like you need to be on top of it. Like, you know, I have people that are like, oh, I'm trying to beat this boss, I'm farming, and I'm like, you can't. Like, you're not going to out farm the bosses. You need to just you need to get good. Like that's how you beat this content. You can. You know, farming is only going to help you so much here.
See, that makes me actually looking forward to at least a little bit because Sekiro was by far one of my favorite games that I ever played.
I think there's still a demo up for it, actually. So.
Oh, there is. Okay, if that's the case, then I'll dive headfirst into the demo to see if I actually enjoy it because it's an
there's a demo, and it keeps your progress. So if you play the demo, that progress goes through the main game.
I like whenever developers do that. That really honestly means the world because anytime I see a game that I like, I'm like, ooh, okay, do they keep the progress from the game? From the demo of the game to the actual game, which that's a good thing. But whenever I was looking into it and people were asking me, Ariel, you going to do a review on it? It's like, if it's too much like Neo, because it's a hot take, and I don't mean for this to come off as bad as it does, but I just did not enjoy my time with Neo. I didn't even get around to finishing the game.
Neo is it's a niche game. I love it, but I can easily recognize it's not for everyone because it's not just, you know, it's not just like the typical Souls experience where you pick the weapon you want. Your armor is mostly aesthetic. Like you need to dig into armors and set building, and that's a core part of the game. And if you don't do that, you're going to have a bad time. If you don't learn the key systems and flux and stance dancing, you're going to have a bad time. And there's just a lot going on in Neo that I think overwhelms a lot of people, which is why it never really, you know, it didn't pop off the same way Souls did because it's just there's a lot going on.
It's interesting that you mentioned the key system because I actually quite enjoyed that part. For me, it was oddly enough the story. Like the story, there was nothing there for me to grab on story-wise.
The first one or the second?
The first one. I didn't play the second one. Yeah, I'm gonna be going into the second one.
Yeah, second's really good. Second is more of a like make your own protagonist, follow an original story, whereas the first was more just like a loose interpretation of William Adams and his story. So like I don't mind the first. There were definitely some parts where like just a little bit weird. Like, you know, you make your way like at the end you're making your way back to England and the bad guy is back there and it's like Whereas I like I think Neo 2 is just an improvement in every way over Neo 1 myself. But.
Now, would you recommend it though on console or on PC? Because I know you're a big PC
I recommend
player.
Everything on PC, but you know, it's you have access to just so much more on PC. You get the game cheaper because it's probably on sale. You get mods. I don't need to pay a subscription to play online with people. Like the list just goes on and on for me. I mean, like the biggest thing with PC is it's just the barrier to entry. Like, you know, the cost. I mean, everyone's like, oh, you can build a decent PC, but like, no. Like if you're gonna build a respectable PC for gaming, like there is going to be a higher cost compared to console, and not just the PC, but you know. You have your mouse, you have your keyboard, you have your desk, you have your chair, you have tons and tons of things that add up. Like if we're adding all that, it's the equivalent of like, oh, it's not just buying a console, it's buying a console, it's getting that 65-inch TV, it's getting the couch, it's, like your entire living room arrangement, how to just to
Yeah.
play games. And that all that is part of the cost with PC gaming. But I don't know. I mean, God, I was playing World of Warcraft back when I was like 16. I've been playing PC for my mom was a teacher, so we had like one of like the OG Macs because they gave them to all the teachers back when we were growing up. So I mean, I was a kid playing like the original Diablo, and I bought a joystick and was playing a Top Gun game, and I've been PC gaming as long as I've been able to, as long as it's been a thing. So I'm never getting pulled away from PC.
Yeah, same. It's one of those things of where you're right. It's very expensive. It's an expensive hobby in general, especially like right now with how Nintendo is pulling it. But whenever I got into PC gaming, like proper PC gaming, it was like 3 or 4 years ago, and I thought, wow, this is amazing. Like I went on to Duck Station to mod Silent Hill 1, and I said, you're never gonna get this on a console. You're never going to be able to have the opportunity to play the very first Silent Hill game again on a console unless you buy the original PS1.
Yeah, yeah. So there's just I don't know, but anyway, yeah. PC is always king for me. Just yeah, nothing else I think really compares to that.
Yeah, and that's why I play a lot of the Souls games on there because I will be damned if I will pay a subscription for something that I don't need other than Souls and Souls likes for playing with other people. Especially Elden Ring because there's so many different mods that are for Elden Ring. I remember getting one from Nexus of where they had a mod, like a boss randomizer, and it threw me in as a level 1 into the final boss fight. And I remember just not having a liking with that. But it's so fun because you get to do those certain things. And I know that people mod their PS4s and everything, but it's just not the same. But that's my point. But yeah, when it gets into different Souls likes that are coming out this year, which one have you found that you've gravitated more towards the most?
I mean, Kazan is pretty much an easy one for me. I know there's some other stuff coming up, like Wu Chang looks like it has some potential. Like that's more of like a Sekiro like, from what I understand. AI Limit was okay. I thought it was actually kind of on the easy side compared to what I'm used to, but I did that right after Kazan, so I was like the top of my game. So I was going in and just like multi-parrying bosses, and I'm like, man, this is really easy. Um, and then there's obviously Nightreign's coming out. I think that'll be fun, but I don't know if it's going to appeal to the general Souls population the way FromSoft's catalog usually does, just because it's more of that fast-paced multiplayer experience. So we'll see what
That
happens.
that's something I actually want to dive into with you a bit was Nightreign. When I was playing through the network test, I found myself of two thoughts of where it was a balance between, okay, I can see that they're going in towards the direction of more of a battle royale style type game, but they're also experimenting, which is what they did with Dark Souls 2, and a lot of people love Dark Souls 2. So experimentation is good, but what do you think is going to be the ultimate direction that it's going to go in from what you've played of the network test as well?
I mean, I think it's very much its own thing. And I had a lot of thoughts as I was playing it, just because I think a big part of Soul's experience, like with what we know, is you're more taking your time. You're looking through weapons. You're like, oh, how does this great sword compare to this great sword? Like personally, if I get two swords and they're comparable, I want to look at the move sets. Oh, this one has a sweeping R1 and a nice running overhead. That's good when I'm in hallways fighting stuff. Or if I get surrounded, I have the horizontal sweeps. And I feel like with Night Rain, I didn't get that at all. I was just like, this has more damage. Okay, go. And it's turbo, and you go, 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 go. And then like, I'm okay with that. I've played games like that. But even then there were things where I was like, well, if we're going to be doing this constant go, 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 I thought, just straight up give me a timer. Like, give me a timer so I know, like, oh, we got 5 minutes till the ring is going to close in. That's not enough time to do this. Let's go hit these two things instead, because we're not going to clear the castle in that 5 minutes, so we'll wait. And I mean, that's pretty standard in everything that has that enclosing circle model. So it definitely feels like something that's absent. But especially between that and the Duskbloods announcement, I'll be curious to see where they go, because I do think From tends to do some of their best work when they break away from the norm and they decide to experiment. I mean, that's how we got Sekiro. Um, but at the same time, I think, especially coming off of Elden Ring, and the fact that you had that fan base, like so many new people coming in that went back and experienced the Souls franchise. I feel like they've I don't want to say they've put themselves into a bucket, but they've certainly established a majority of their audience that knows them as the company that makes Souls games. And so people are expecting that overall experience. I mean, I've played, I played Armored Core games way back in the day. So before I even played Souls, I was a FromSoft fan from playing Armored Core. And so, like obviously when Armored Core 6 was announced, I was like, finally, every time I've seen a From Software logo for the last 6 years, I've been waiting for this. Like it's taken forever. So I'm okay with them experimenting, but I do hope that after Nightreign, after Duskbloods, that we have not even necessarily a Souls experience, but I'd like another just original action adventure RPG, something kind of how Sekiro was. That's just really centered around building your character and going on a journey through a world, because I think that's where they excel the best.
I think so too, and it's interesting because when I was going through Nightreign a lot of the time, I didn't realize that hitting the person would be the way to kind of revive them, and I thought, why are
Yeah.
people hitting me? So a lot of the stuff you find throughout your experience of playing it, but one thing I really hope is that through the experience that everyone has of Nightreign is that the soul of what like a Souls like is still kept throughout there, and that's to me what was lacking a little bit. I felt like who I don't know who the director is on this, to be honest, but whenever it was going through the network test, I felt like it was just trying to be popular for popular's sake, and I don't want to see anything that in regards to Souls like turn into
Honestly,
that to a
I think
degree.
they just need, like, even if the very so a thing that's fairly common in battle royales is, you start with like a quick tutorial, like this is shooting your gun, this is running, circle's going to enclose. And I know this isn't a traditional battle royale, but there's a lot of mechanics with like working together, picking stuff on the map. Um, and having a bot match is very common. Like if you boot up Fortnite, you've never played before, there might be one other person in that lobby with you. You're fighting a bunch of bots, and you're going to get through the match and be like, oh, I'm really good. And then once you start playing players, you're like, I'm not good. But I feel like Night Rain could benefit from something like that. Like, the very first time you go in, it's like, here's a timer. This is how long till the circle goes down. And your first match is just you with two NPCs. And maybe there's, you know, certain points that are flashing on the map. Here you can find heals. Here you could find weapons for this type of class. Because all that information is there. And, digging in, like especially by like the third network test, I was like, okay, I know how this works. And I was able to clear the boss with all the characters and was like, all right, I get what's going on here. Um, but I'm someone with thousands of hours in Souls likes and probably over 1,000 hours in just Elden Ring alone. So like I know each weapon's move set by heart. I know the intricacies of how certain things are going to synergize with builds and how they aren't. And in Elden Ring, you have that time to experiment, but you don't in Night Rain. And so, especially because of that lack of time and the fact that you're just thrown right in, and there are a lot of new things that you're trying to learn. And I mean, there's stuff like they had the training area, and the training area has you can test out different weapons and experiment. But I feel like if they want to go for this new approach, it might be the one time where they actually benefit from a tutorial of sorts. Because in like in Souls, yeah, you're thrown in there. Your tutorials are a couple messages, but you can take it at your own pace. And I think that's important. If it takes you an hour before you're like, okay, I'm comfortable, that's fine. But with Night Rain's model, if it takes you an hour until you're comfortable, well, that's 3 matches you're going to go through where your teammates are like, what the fuck, this guy's useless. Like, why do I have this person with me? And so I think people need, whether it's going to be an option to just, I know there's an option to play solo. I think it would be good to have it like you play solo with just NPCs to give people like a playground to learn and experiment before jumping on, or a full-blown tutorial. But I think they need something there.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's interesting to see From Software go into this direction because you know, like I said before, experimentation is how we got Dark Souls 2. So when I look at the experimenting that they've done over the years and seeing how they brought new players like myself in, because I started playing Souls games in 2020, 2021, that area, and going from playing the original, like, first Dark Souls remastered to playing Elden Ring and seeing how everything works and how everything progresses, I feel like it's only natural for From Software to do some things that are more off the cuff. So I really hope for Nightreign for the better for this game. I hope that it's a success, and I really hope that everything goes well with it, because I don't mean this to come off as a bad thing, but I feel like with this, they were biting off a little more than they could chew at first when I got into it. So I really hope that it pans out for the better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the other things I wanted to actually discuss in Nightreign was, I know they came out recently with not new builds, but new characters that you could play as. What did you think of the new ones that they released?
I mean, a lot of them, they were actually revealed a while ago. Not at this level of detail, obviously, but we knew they were coming. Um, so it's kind of cool to see them fleshed out. But I don't know, I'm at the point where anytime we get like this close to a game launch where it's like, you know, a month and a half, 2 months out, I usually start to just like black out social media regarding it, because I'm like, you know, it was the same with Monster Hunter when we were like 2 months away from Wilds and they started doing like all the various reveals. I was like, no, I'm done. I'm not watching. You know, we're too close. Like I don't want any more info. I want to experience this stuff firsthand. So that's kind of where I'm at now with Nightreign. Is like I know that they're putting out trailers and they're hyping it up, and I'm occasionally like retweeting something, but I'm like, no, I don't want any more details. Just let me play, let me experience it. I'd rather, you know, go in firsthand and just form my opinion that way. I don't know. Maybe it's just getting older. But like I like consciously try to not get excited about things anymore, because I feel like if you know, if I'm just like, this will be cool, I will play it. I'm not gonna get excited, and I go in and then it's awesome, then I'm like, hell yeah, this is a great time. But if it's the opposite, if you're like, this is gonna be the best game ever, it's gonna be so awesome, this looks so cool, and then you go in and it's not what you thought it was gonna be, you end up disappointed. So I purposefully choose to like hold off on hype and just be like, that looks fun, I hope it's fun. And then if it's really good, I can be pleasantly happy instead of disappointed because I put the game up on a plateau before experiencing something.
See, that's the way I am with movies more so than I am games. Because if I go into a movie and I think this is gonna be great, this is gonna be awesome, and I'm let down, and I'm just like, oh, this was a snooze fest, then it gets into a little bit of a weird thing. Whereas the moment I saw the trailer, for example, for Doom: The Dark Ages, I was ready. I was ready
Well,
for
I mean,
day one.
Doom has see Doom. It's hard to fuck up Doom. Like you give me the same high intensity combat. You give me that music going. Like I'm ready to rip and tear. You know, it doesn't matter where I'm ripping tearing. It doesn't matter how I'm ripping tearing. Like put me in there. I'm ready to go. I already know. Like I know exactly what to expect. But with Nightreign, I'm like, this is, you know, and before I played it, like I think I had a lot of thoughts, obviously from the network test, and I think those are big moments because, you know, there's only, like, especially, you know, we see these action games and we see trailers and you're like, you know, this looks cool, but like I'm not going to make a judgment until I have gone hands on with this, because until it's in my hands and I'm seeing how it feels, you know, something could look good and then you play it and you're like, oh, my character moves terrible, like this doesn't feel fluid, this doesn't feel good. And you know, so I'd rather just experience stuff, I guess. But Doom, I mean, you know, Doom, it's hard to, like, it's Doom, you know, it's a very simple format that's hard to fuck up.
Yeah, when they redid it in Doom 2016, I thought, okay, no, it can't get better than this. And then they made all these like little improvements along the way, but it was still Doom. It was still the essence of what it was from the 90s. So yeah, it's pretty hard to fuck that up. Because I mean, like, unless you put like, you know, Doom guy with, even they put him in a unicorn outfit and it didn't fuck it up at all. Like that made it even better actually. So, but yeah, it was really interesting to see like so many people who even haven't played Doom before get excited. Now they got the new collector's edition that's coming out. They got all the like the little bits and bobs, so it's making everyone so excited for it. And I'm really eager to see like what is going to be I'm going to sound old when I say this, but in form of the rippage and tear whenever it comes to how you can rip and tear. Because I know that they put out a trailer with new movesets that the character has and everything. So it'll be really interesting to see people's like screenshots of like, oh, I got to, tear someone's eye socket out with this thing. So that'll be really fun. But yeah, when it gets into another game actually that I recently played for the first time because of, oh gosh, it was you and one other content creator. I'm spacing on it right now. Oh, Coyote Wildfire and yourself finally influenced me to play Monster Hunter for the first time. I had an interesting experience. I never played any Monster Hunter games before, so I was going in baptism by fire. It was weird, but also because I have motion sickness a lot of the time, the camera was fucking, what the hell was with the camera? Cowboy, the camera?
It's time to adjust.
What level of fuckery was that? Because
so are you talking wilds though, or the older ones?
I'm talking wilds.
Okay.
Because
when wilds, I think is on the more mellow side because you have focus mode, so you can at least turn. In the past games, your character, like, you attacked to where you were oriented. So even if you were looking behind you, if you were facing forward and you hit the button, your guy would just attack forward. And so for the longest time, people were like, these controls are jank. They're so jank. It's hard to play. And like once you realize like movement versus camera versus, how certain attacks are going to reorient your character or change your direction, like once it clicks, it just clicks. But it's one of those games that from the outside, a lot of people are just like, this is, I cannot do this.
It's so funny that you mentioned that because I gave it the good college try. I put like 40 some hours into the game and I got up to, what was it? The Black Flame. And that was just like, for my motion sickness, I'm just like very movement oriented. So I was seeing the character here, the sword would go over here, and I tried to focus mode and do all the different things with it, but I was just like, no, my brain was not having it at all. But it's a good game. That's the thing. Like, I enjoyed the time that I did have with it, and the way that I saw semblances of Dragon's Dogma in there with like the food crafting and everything, it made my heart so happy.
I think there's actually there's a campaign right now. People are trying to like get signatures for a Dragon's Dogma DLC or something. I mean, obviously I'd love it. It's starting to feel like Capcom just kind of like put it out and abandoned it a little bit, which is just sad because it's one of my favorite RPGs, but I'd love to see a proper expansion, at least bring like Bitter Black back or something similar to what we had at the end game of the first.
Yeah, that was, again, also another first for me. I never dove into the Dragon's Dogma world until 2, and it was fascinating to see that world, besides Resident Evil, because I had only played Resident Evil games from Capcom, never any of the other IPs. So it was fascinating to go through that nonetheless. But when you see a lot of, especially like new players into not Dragon's Dogma, Monster Hunter, are there any tips and tricks that you would give them in order to feel more confident in their playstyle?
Man. I mean, I have
so many videos, guys.
Probably 30 different guides on Monster Hunter. I'd say the biggest thing with Monster Hunter is just trying every weapon, because you get a weapon of every type to start, and just going to the training area and just smacking the dummy and seeing how something feels. Because, all 14 weapons play very differently. And I think that's probably the biggest thing is people are like, oh, do this. This is a good starter weapon. But, if you don't vibe with it, you don't vibe with it. Like the Charge Blade is considered more technical, but, maybe that play style of big sword and shield that transforms into a giant axe when you have openings is what's going to fit for you. And so I think it's like any other, like it would be like if you went in Souls and you just told people like, oh, just use strength. Like strength is good. Just use strength. Like, yeah, for me, that's great. But like other people might vibe better with magic or the speed that comes along with the dex build or the buffs and the healing that Faith is going to provide. And I think Monster Hunter is very forgiving in letting you try stuff out. And there's a lot of information the game does provide, but it's buried in menus. So you really gotta, you gotta dig into menu. Like, I mean, a lot of people don't even know you go into the menus. It breaks down monster weaknesses by part. Like, their head's weaker to fire versus the backside. And this part's going to be 4 star to fire, whereas this part's only going to be 1 star to fire. So even though the monster's weak to fire, you don't want to hit his front claws because those are resistant and they're hardened. And it's just it's definitely like information overload the game, and it's one of those games that like once it clicks, moving forward with the franchise, you're just like compiling more knowledge and more expertise. But it is a hefty investment to get into Monster Hunter initially and learn all those things.
Absolutely. And it was overwhelming for me at first because of that exact thing. But once you read through the guides and once you read through like all the different menu options, that's why, like, I don't know, I'm seeing this constant thing in gaming of where a lot of people like to rush through games to get to the next boss and the next area and the next area. And I wish a lot of, well, some people, not most people, but like some people, I wish it would take more time to just observe their surroundings and the menu and take in all the information, because there's a lot of stuff that the developers put in there for the player's benefit.
Yeah. Yeah. People just no time. Everything is turbo mode.
Yeah, no, it's just like, no, just breathe. Okay, take a chill pill. It's gonna be fine. Don't worry about it. Like, I feel like everyone's in anxiety mode over trying to finish the game before a next content creator or before someone else that they don't even know, and it's just like, really, that's kind of bullshit if you ask me.
Yeah, it was we had a little bit of that during the review period, because there were, there's all types that review. But in we had like there was a review Discord up with everyone that was reviewing, and you could tell who like the Monster Hunter fans were, because it was like me and 2 other people that are like, oh, what are you, you're HR 100? Damn, I'm at 75, I'm almost there. And we're sitting there testing like various set mechanics and like damage optimization. And then you have the other guy that's like, I've played 3 hours, how do I beat the frog? Like, oh, sweet summer child, you have so much to learn.
Oh no. Oh, the frog was adorable though. That was a cute
I
boss.
love Fightin Cowboy. I think he's my new favorite like starter, because I think he has a good move set that like allows you to test your offsets, to test your clashes. He's like a frog mixed with an alligator. He's fun.
It's adorable. Like, all the bosses in the game that I've played, from what I've played so far, are absolutely wonderful to go through. And it's such a mix-up of what I've noticed of different ways to beat the bosses. And you can use, like, one weapon for this boss and one weapon for that. My primary go-to weapon was the hammer, because I loved how much damage it did. Like, that was it for me. I used that on primary, like, all the bosses. But there were so many different, like, enchantments that you can put on there, for example, or, like, different things you could add. And it reminded me of Neo in a way where you could add paper to the weapon, and I thought that was really awesome.
What do you mean by enchantments?
Like the different buffs that you could utilize for the weapon, not enchantments. See, it's going to be one of those things, guys, you get, again, whenever I say a word and it's not indicative of the word that I'm trying to say, so bear with it. Every single podcast, I manage to not say the right word for something that's utilized in a game, so... But, actually, it's kind of funny, though, because just as a side note, I find this absolutely hilarious. My mom... This is going to happen again, this bullshit.
Nice PS5 over there.
Yeah, I got the PC running over here on turbo mode. Oh, no, this is going to happen again. Move over. Move... Oh, Jesus Christ and tits.
This is why I don't do auto tracking.
And when I move my hand up one time, and it's just like... Jesus Christ. All right, hold 1 second. I'm so sorry. I was going to say, before my camera so rudely interrupted me, was that I find it funny because my mom actually watched our previous podcast on my other channel, and she said, isn't it Fightin Cowboy, not fighting? I'm like, my own mother is trying to troll me right now. This is great. And I thought that was funny because anytime that I am fast typing, I'm just like, oh no, it's just fighting. And it's like, no. There's no ing, you guys. It's just the fighting.
Just the in.
I thought that was funny, though. But yeah, no, one of the interesting things, though, that I find about Monster Hunter in general is the community is so welcoming. Like, I was welcomed with open arms when I first went into there, and I thought, oh god, I'm gonna be a noob, I'm not gonna know anything about any of the terms, but everyone was really nice. It was kind of like whenever I first joined Souls games. It was really awesome. So recently, I think, if I'm assuming correctly, within like this past, I want to say the past year, you recently got back into Magic the Gathering?
Mainly paper, but yeah.
Okay, because I've never played any of it before, and I just got into it this past year. So for me, I'm going through all the cards, going through everything. What is one of like the decks that you find you built yourself that you really enjoy playing through with friends?
Oh God. I mean, I have like 30 decks to choose from.
Oh no.
Probably my favorite, and I don't get to play it much anymore. But I have an Eldrazi Titan deck, and we'll just play casual games together. And usually it's like a turn two, turn three, wipes the table out deck if I have everything I need. So I don't get to play it because it's too strong. But it's a it's a deck. So I made it back in like 2010, and it was basically just green ramp Eldrazi, and just the way power creeps over the years. There's a lot of cards that got added into the pool to where I've ramped it up to be just disgusting. And I mean, we mostly play Legacy, so that opens up your pool even more. For a while, we were considering going even further back. Not Legacy. What is it? God, I always forget because I had that we had this big discussion. So all right. So I guess to rewind, there's different formats in Magic. You have like Standard, which is like the most recent, like the core set and the most recent 3 blocks. And then you have Modern, which opens it up a little bit further back. And then you have Legacy, which opens it up even further back. And then you have Vintage, which is basically anything goes outside of like a couple very specific cards. And so we play. I call it casual Legacy. Like it's not as competitive. Like none of these decks would be competitive in like tournament Legacy, but we just play Legacy because it gives us, all of us older players that have cards from like 2010 and back can use those still, and it's just more build variety for the decks. But we try to avoid power creep. But for a while, I had one friend that was like, he basically wanted to use cards that were banned even in Legacy. Like these were cards that were usually okay in Vintage, but I'm like, listen, man, like the core of Magic is rules. It's a card game. If we're not gonna pick a set of rules to play by, like what, like we're not gonna be able to play. And he's like, I just want to use whatever cards I have, which in his case was like chucking like 3 Soul Rings into a deck and multiple Lotus Petals. And I'm like, okay, well, you can have these, you cannot have this you can have one of. And he's like, no, I've listened. Either I'm going to use my cards or I'm not going to play. And finally I'm like, okay. And so I made that Eldrazi deck I had. It was green ramp Eldrazi, and instead I turned it into like a pure colorless monster and worked in Ancient Tombs and a bunch of other shit. So it would be like turn 3, I would like get out a land that would ramp out something, which would then ramp out something, which would then generate an infinite mana engine, which would then play Emrakul to give me an extra turn, which would then play like Kozilek, and I'd draw 7 cards and have an infinite mana engine. So like I would go from like
Just
in one
obnoxious.
turn, yeah, and effectively in one turn, I would get out 9 Eldrazi Titans, like all 3 Emrakuls, all 3 Kozileks, all 3 Ulamogs. And then, since Emrakul is coming down, I get to take an extra turn. And I'm like, okay. And now I swing and I hit you with 45 Annihilator. You sacrifice everything. It all comes under my control. Get rid of all your cards. And he's like, this isn't fun anymore. And I'm like, do you want to play by rules now? Do we want to abide by a rule set now? Is that, do we want to do that? We can go back to a rule set and I don't have to do this. And, he doesn't play with this anymore, but everyone else is like cool with like actually playing by a rule set. And that deck's actually the deck I have is it is Legacy legal, but it's more of like a competitive Legacy than casual Legacy. So it sits in the box, and occasionally it comes out for like a 1v3 or a 1v2, and it still usually wins just because they're like, we need to attack now, and I'm like, nah, you're already fucked. Like my next turn you lose. They're like, no. Like there's gotta be something. And I'm like, no.
It's like one of those cards. There's a card that I have. I'm forgetting the name of it, but it says on there that your next, what was it? Your opponent cannot lose. No, you cannot lose, and your opponent cannot win. And it's an angel card. Yeah, it's an angel card. And then you have to have a protector angel around it. So I got Avakin to be able to do that, and that was a hard card to find. That was a really hard card. One of my friends actually, who he sent it to me, and it was the kind of like the new horror poster version that they have of the card. Insert picture here for people who need the reference. It's one of those interesting moments of where like you have a card that can easily take out another player, but then you need a guardian card to be able to make sure that they don't get offed. So it's so much fun, and I'm learning all the different rules about it, and I'm currently in the process of making a full vampire deck.
Yeah, vampires are pretty competitive, especially in Legacy. Like, there's some stuff that I could do that I don't do. Like, let me see my vampire deck. I haven't logged into Mox.
Actually, now that we're talking about Magic, give me a second. I can pull up actually the cards I have over here really quickly to show you mine. 1 second.
So these days we do proxies, just because it's cheaper. Actually, I sold my original Eldrazi deck that went for about 700. So I sold that, and that was enough to get out this whole box.
Holy shit!
That's 30. Well, I have 30 decks here. Then I have 5 monocolor decks that are considered lower in power level, like they're limited to 4 mythics and 2 planeswalkers per deck. And then my Titan deck, which I don't play. But yeah, I mean, let's see. I have an allies deck: dinos, dragons, Eldrazi wide, elves, hydras, kitties, slivers, vampires, zombies, artifact discard, health drain, infinite combo, Esper Super Friends, Golgari, Grixis Control, Pure Ramp, Izzet, Rakdos Tempo, Tezzeret, Jank Build, Angels, Azoria Spirits, Demons, Elementals, Selznia Enchantments, Gruul Aggro, Horrors, Ninjas, Ooze, Phyrexia, the Mono decks, and then my Titans.
Shit, dude. Like, I am such a noob. I might need help building a deck at this point. I did not know that you were like seriously, I did not know that you got good at the art of building the deck, which I might need help with.
I do. For a while, I was doing whole streams to build decks, and then the last one that I was putting together, I haven't printed it yet, but I made an Eldrazi Horrors deck that it works around Bruna and Giselda, which are 2 angels, and they meld together to create this Eldrazi angel, which is like 9/10 flying first strike, vigilance, lifelink. Opponent can't cast spells that are 3 or less. And then I get out like a void winnower, so opponent can't cast anything that has even mana costs. And so it's like
that's obnoxious, and I love it.
Yeah. So the only thing they can play from that point on is like a 5-drop, a 7-drop, a 9-drop. So it's like I get both of those out. Most of the time, people just scoop at that point. They're like, "Yeah, this is fucked," and I'm like, "Yeah, here." Yeah.
The kind of decks that you can build is just like you can just overpower anything. And this is a card that I was mentioning before. That's the one that I'm currently building a deck off of. And then, yeah, what is it? I keep everything like literally in this binder because I just got the chance to be able to organize everything. So it's all just nicely tucked away. But some of the cards that I absolutely love and want to make a deck from is the following. The Marina Vendrell, which she has everything. Like, she literally has everything attached to her, which that might be an interesting one. Marina Vendrell.
I think she's one of the... Oh, okay. She's the EDH commander.
Yeah, this is the vampire card that I currently am building the commander deck off of legendary creature, Drana and Linvala.
Yeah, I haven't done any. I have a buddy that wants me to join Commander, but all the Commander decks I have suggested, he's like, "No, that's too big in our power level." And I'm like, "What about this?" He's like, "It's too high in our power." I'm like, "Bro, like, what is the power level of your pod? Like, it sounds like you're all playing fucking Pauper," which is weird because I mean that's how we went to proxies, just because card prices are insane.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah. So I haven't done Commander yet. Say one of my favorite though, if I had to pick, uh, I'd say the Eldrazi Titans. The Grixis Control is really fun, and then maybe the Selznia Enchants. That's a really unique one because like every deck is or every card in the deck is like an enchantment outside of like the couple basic lands it has. The horror decks is really fun though. I have a Margit Large or Margit Lage horror deck, and it's it's pretty bullshit. So the way it works is I would get down like a swamp or something, or I get well if you have the right cards, you can just win immediately. Um, but what you do is you would a get down a swamp, and then on your second turn you play Dark Depths. You pop a Dark Ritual, cast Vampire Hexmage. You sacrifice Vampire Hexmage, which removes all counters from target permanent. You remove the 10 ice counters on Dark Depths, and then that spawns Margit Lage. So you end turn 2 with a 20/20 flying indestructible creature.
Jesus.
Which I've had. I mean, it's like this is one of those like the stars aligned to pull off that exact combo. I have enough cards to support that. But I had one match where I got the turn 2 Margit Lage. My buddy's like, "Yeah, that's no." And I'm like, listen, like it doesn't usually happen that fast. Usually it takes time to kill you. And he's like, "Yeah, no, I don't care. That's not fun." And I was like,
Again, I will
land
say,
destruction, I guess, bro.
again, I will say, I love it when you can just be heavily obnoxious with a deck, and it's like, hell yeah, this worked out best. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I've had a couple that are. I had one that would steal my opponent's creatures every turn, and then um, fling them at the player, like steal their creature, attack with them, and then sacrifice them. I've had one that by like turn 5, I can tap into just infinite turns, and the player doesn't get to play again. I've had a couple that are pretty fucking rude cards like that. I have plenty of I have a couple of infinite. I think one of my favorite infinite combos. I have like a Niv Mizzet. You get like it takes longer to ramp, but you get Niv Mizzet and Curiosity down, and then they play a spell which causes you to draw a card, which lets Niv Mizzet ping them for 1, which then lets you draw a card, which then lets Niv Mizzet ping them for 1. So once it's out, it's like it's you've achieved infinite. So a lot of the infinite combos are really fun like that. You just the game ends, but I think getting to that infinite combo is what makes it so entertaining.
oh, absolutely, yeah. And that's the same thing I oddly enough feel about Souls, of where it's like the progress and the process of how it's done is so much fun. And it's like, oh yeah, no, you beat the person, but like getting there was the great part. And it's like this one, I finally found it. So it's Platinum Angel flying. You can't lose the game, and your opponent can't win either. Yeah, and this one was an interesting one. I found this on Amazon. It was Hirobi. I don't know if you've used this one.
Ruby Death's Will. Our creature comes as shelters for that creature. Huh. I mean, I wouldn't use that with platinum. They could kill your platinum with that.
No, no, those two cards do not get used together.
My neighbor called me for a ruling the other day because he's been playing Angels, and he managed to ramp up to actually get his Avacyn out, and then his son that I taught how to play just dropped. Was it Toxic Sludge, I believe?
Oh wow.
Let me see. No, not Toxic Sludge. What is it?
Wait, it's Avacyn? Not Avakin.
Yeah. Avacyn, yeah.
This is the same
Toxic,
thing that reminds me of the dragon that I couldn't pronounce. What was it? That fucker.
What is the fucking God? I haven't played in a while. Let me remember what this is. I know I have done my Grixis Control.
I'm trying to remember that damn name.
Toxic. Where's my? No, I should have them. Oh no, you're in the sideboard. Toxic Deluge. But it's a board wipe where you subtract from your health to give the field -X, -X, and he got out Avacyn to make his whole team indestructible, and then my buddy played a Toxic Deluge, which if your creature's toughness goes beyond 0, if it hits 0, they cease to exist. So it gets past indestructibility and everything. And since it's a board effect, it also gets past hexproof. So he's like sitting there with his Avacyn and his Shalai, and then all of a sudden, nope, everything's gone.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. And honestly, as a side note, like I remember the name, by the way. It's Placidus X. That's the one. The last time.
Placidus X?
Placido, whatever the fucker's name is. That one, Avacyn. Just put it to the list of things I cannot pronounce. But no, it's so interesting getting into Magic the Gathering because I didn't realize how much higher card prices have gone. And to speak on that for a second, because Pokemon has gotten just gross. Like, it's gross how expensive it's gotten. Like,
well, Pokemon, I don't even think a lot of people, Pokemon, as far as I know, is mainly in the collector zone, whereas Magic is still very widely played. I know, I mean, there's a couple people that do play Pokemon, but a lot of the people that snatch up cards are doing it from a collector or a resale perspective, which just makes it more difficult. I mean, with Magic, if you're serious about Magic, honestly, just get into proxies, because most game stores worth their salt are going to be fine with you playing proxies, simply because you're paying 25 cents for a card versus money, and otherwise it's not a question of who can build the better deck, it's a question of who has the bigger wallet. And so especially in something like Legacy, I mean, your average dual land goes for $350. If you're going to have 4 in a deck, that's $1,000 for 4 of your lands. That's not even a complete land base yet. Whereas with proxies, that costs $1. So
that is so expensive. Like, my God, it was interesting coming back into card games because I hadn't gotten back into Pokemon in 20 years. And I was originally collecting it when I was a kid and playing it with friends and family and everything. But the way that, like, for example, one card, they call it the Moonbryon. It goes now for a little over $600 just for a single card. And that it's so shocking to me. Like, it was at first, not anymore, because people are going to pay obscene amounts of money for anything that they really, really want. But, like, even for the collector's edition for the Marvel Spider-Man version of Magic the Gathering, I pre-ordered that and it was like $75-ish, which that's normal for a collector's bundle. But for Pokemon, for Prismatic Evolutions, they're now charging for what is supposed to be a $50-ish collector's box over $130.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I did proxies. Like I said, I took my one Eldrazi deck. My Eugens were going for 50 a pop. My Eye of Eugen, or not Eugen, my Ulamogs, they were like 50, 60. Eye of Eugens were going 75. Sold that deck and made enough money off that deck to fill that entire box full of proxies. And you can't tell the difference in quality. They look identical to a regular card. They feel identical. You can get custom art on the back, so each of my decks have a different backing. Like my Hydra has like a coiling serpent on the back. My demons have like a 40k demon emblem on the back because it's like a Baligor deck. And it's just easier because, especially like long term, like if I had, a bunch of Magic cards and they started to decay with time and they lost value, I'd be upset. Whereas if it's a proxy, it's a nickel to replace it.
Yeah. Exactly, and you're still playing the game the same way. It hasn't changed.
Yeah, well, I'm also I hate having to like sleeve entire decks. I hate that. I don't want to take every fucking card and put it into a sleeve. I just want to play with my deck, and so that's with proxies. Something happens, card gets damaged, card gets lost. Doesn't matter. Don't care. Easy to replace.
Yeah, I mean, I only sleeve the cards that are my commanders, or if it's like a really good card that I know that is really valuable, that's the only time I'll sleeve it. But yeah, it doesn't make much sense because you're wasting sleeves at that point that you could be using for really valuable cards. But yeah, next topic that I wanted to get into, because I could talk about Magic all day, honestly. Like, getting into that hobby was so much fun. Is books, because I have recently got back into reading heavily. I know you said in one of your streams you just recently finished up a book. I forget the title of it, but it's what actually inspired me to talk about this right now. So what have you been recently getting into as far as reading?
I mean, I don't read almost ever. I was reading the webcomic for Solo Leveling.
That's still reading though.
that's reading, but I mean it's it's a manhwa, so I don't know if I would put that in the same book as reading a novel. Um, but that was more because I've been watching Solo Leveling, and I got up close to the end of the season and was like, all right, I'm not waiting a week to find out what happens. So I found just online scans of everything and just read the entirety of the series.
Yeah, no, that's the way I was with Death Note. Even though like the entire series was already out, I wanted to see if there was any differentiation between the manga and the anime, and it was so strange, like seeing how literally it was a carbon copy of seeing the
Yeah,
manga and
not
seeing
not
the anime
always
in
the
there.
case, but yeah, it's some
No,
every now and again they do they do well with translating it over.
yeah, I'm currently in the process of reading A Brief History of Time from Stephen Hawking, and it is at some points it's a snooze fest. I'm not going to beat around the bush with that, but at some points it's fascinating because my dad got his degree in astrophysics, so he said, Ariel, you are going to love this book. Give it a chance. I know you like Stephen Hawking. Get into it, and it's a good book. I would highly recommend it for anybody who wants to dive into like astrophysics and metaphysics and even like the concept of wormholes and time and theory and all of that. But yeah, it's really, I mean, I would highly recommend it. It's a really good book. I mean, most of the books that I read are either going to be horror, medical, or anything that has to do with like vampires because I love vampires. So, but whenever you are reading, do you like have a specific genre that you lean more towards, or is it just something of where like, oh, if I'm interested in like this specific thing, I'll read about it?
More the latter. Like if there's a topic I'm interested in, I'll read up. But usually I don't really have the time to just like read much these days. I mean, the only time I would really be if I'm traveling, and then even then, I'm usually bringing a Steam Deck along, so I'm trying to work through something for a review or whatever the case is. So, I think it's just it kind of conflicts. I think we only have so much time in the day, and taking a career that's in gaming, that becomes the entertainment medium of choice that takes up 90% of my time. So it is what it is.
I completely understand that, and that's honestly what I found because whenever I started doing freelance at IGN, I found myself not having much time for a lot of the things like outside of that. So I do freelance for Windows Central and IGN, and it's one of the interesting things of where my day is either it's work or house stuff, and at the end of the day, I'm like sitting in bed and I'm just like, I have an hour before I feel like I'm going to knock out. How do I want to spend this hour? You know?
Yeah.
So it gets to a point of where, and I feel like it's a very first world issue, of course, but whenever like people are seeing it from the outside, they're like, you get to play games all day. It's like, well, no, not necessarily. You're not just playing games, in your case, you're writing guides, specifically for the reviews that you're doing. You're going through
Yeah.
and you're making sure that everything is like, if it's to the level of like Lords of the Fallen or like Bloodborne, going through with like a fine tooth comb and seeing everything that are
Yeah.
collectibles, going through it. But it gets into like this weird territory of where, and this is the next topic I want to go into, of where how do you approach the conversation of your job with people who don't necessarily understand the struggle of content creation and they only see it from that outside perspective?
Um, I mean, I don't really, to be honest. I think it's one of those things where when it comes up with people, like, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I play games on YouTube, and they're like, well, what? And I'm like, well, I make guides and I do reviews, and a new game will come out. I'll go through it ahead of time and record it to show like a blind experience to people that want to see that, and then I'll dive in and I'll make guides, and then you know um, well, it's usually talk about how there's the time spent taking notes and then compiling everything and editing everything and give them a rough idea of like if a game's this many hours, it's going to take this many hours to get through it, and then this many hours to make guides and this many hours to edit it, and then you know that is what it is. And they're like, oh wow, I didn't even know that was a thing. And I'm like, yep, it's a thing these days. Very unique field still. I think most people think it's kind of cool. I think the harder problem is like banks. Like when I bought my second house, they were like, where does this money come from? And I'm like, Google. And they're like, how are you being paid? And I'm like everyone else, here's tax statements. And they're like, can I talk to Google? And I'm like, no, the fuck you cannot. But the money comes from them. Like, I don't know. So it's very older generations don't understand it. Um, but it is what it is, and as long as there's money keeps flowing and keeps paying the
Yeah.
bills, that's what matters.
And plus, I know that you said like in another podcast that we did of where it's not only YouTube that you do, you work with veterans in healthcare.
I do.
And,
That's
you know,
well, so that's even that. That's only part time these days. I don't know if I'm going to keep doing that right now. The government is in a bit of a shit show at the moment, with all the various cuts and everything that's going on. So I'm uh, I'm waiting to find out what happens. Like our whole, I'm actually right now I'm on extended leave. I took like a 3 months of leave just because I was like, I'm going to take 3 months of leave, see how things pan out. But like, I mean, in the course of a week, our team went from like 60 to 15. All of our priorities got realigned. Half the work we were doing had to get dropped. Um, so it's one of those where I'm like, I'm just going to step away. If in 3 months it's just as bad as it was, then I'll probably just retire from that and then focus on the channel full time. Um, it's shitty, but it is what it is.
do you find that more or less like, I wouldn't say a relief, but knowing in which way things are heading, being able to focus more of your time fully on one thing more so than another? Because, you were still doing it part time. So is it
No, I mean,
more
I,
of a
I,
thing?
I think I liked having both. I think it helped. If anything, having to wake up for like that every day definitely helped to keep me on a normal schedule and keep me focused. And because like for the past 3 months, I've been on just YouTube time, which is, oh, I guess I'll stream till 2 a.m. tonight and then sleep until 10. And so your sleep schedule falls apart a bit more, and like it's nice having more freedom, but at the same time, I tend to crave structure, and it's more difficult to just tell yourself it's time to go to bed, and then we're going to wake up and start reviewing at 8. Um, because it's like, well, there's no reason I don't have to. I am beholden to no one but myself, and like the work's getting done, but I'd rather stay on that cycle. And I'm just naturally like a night owl. Like my ideal schedule is going to be like go to sleep at 2 or 3, wake up when it's time to eat lunch, and then get to work and just skip like the hours between like 4 a.m. and probably 9 a.m. I could just erase those. That's time to sleep and do nothing. Um, so I mean, if that ends up being how things go, so be it. I've taken all the steps to set myself up so that if that's the case, I'd be fine to continue doing what I've been doing. Um, but it's as with anything in life, when there's uncertainty, it's always a little annoying to be like, all right, well, I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's the one thing about, again, like you said, about, the current government situation. It's very uncertain, and it's very kind of just tumultuous in general, because anytime that I'm seeing news about it, I'm just like, oh God, what kind of bullshit is going to change right now? But it's so interesting to see, like, from the perspective of someone who has, technically made it in this industry and has been doing this for years. What is one thing, as being obviously realistic about it, because a lot of people like to sugarcoat the job and how a lot of things are in this industry, what would you tell someone who wants to do what you're doing in terms of doing guides?
I mean, I tell people to not, to be honest. I think at the end of the day, I think you can't go into content creation with the expectation of making a dime. It's the same when my generation was growing up. The kids that were like, oh, I'm gonna move out here and I'm gonna become a famous music star, or I'm gonna go to Hollywood and I'm gonna be a music star or a movie star, or I'm gonna, no, I'm gonna get drafted. I'm gonna go play in the NFL. Like if it works out, if you are that 1% of the 1% that makes it, fantastic. But a vast majority of people don't. Whether that's a case of, not enough drive, you don't have the right personality, you don't have the right voice. Maybe it was just luck. There's a lot of factors that go into it. And when I get people all the time, they ask me, they're like, what should I do to get started with content creation? And like, the only thing you can do is just you start doing it and you go into it with the expectation that you're doing it for fun, and realistically you're never going to make a dime. You might make a couple $100, but there's no guarantees. It's not like, it's not like a job where you spend 10 years and you're going to have 1 million subscribers. I mean, I know people that have been at it longer than me, and they're still at like 50,000, 100,000, and they're like, they're still just trucking along and trying. And sometimes that's just how it is. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, I can say full, confidently that, you inspired a lot of like kind of the decisions that I make with my channel and how I approach things, because it is about, treating it like a business. It's about treating it as if, yeah, you're doing it for fun, but you're also doing it, to also push yourself to make a living, to be able to have that kind of life. And actually one of the changes that I made to my other channel is where all the playthroughs that I do, they're going to be membership only, because I work 2 jobs. I don't have the time to just let it just accumulate some views over here for a playthrough and then that's it. So I want to be able to give members their money's worth and, put it locked behind that paywall. That way they are getting their money's worth for all the content that I'm delivering. So it's one of those important things of where you have to maneuver, sure, with everything that changes along the way. But I feel like if people treated what they want to do with respect, and I think that comes down to like is the major key like component of it, then they wouldn't find themselves in just wishing instead of it actually being a thing.
Yeah.
So but I think, there's a lot to be learned from, content creators like, like yourself and other big ones who have really made it in the industry. And it's not easy by any means. I don't want anyone thinking that this is an easy thing to do. It's probably one of the most difficult jobs I have ever had and probably ever will have, because you have that self-reliance on yourself to push out content, to be able to make sure that everything is on time. Like you post about like 3 or 4 times a day, including the live streams?
Depends how busy we are. I don't even know. I'd say the harder part of it, more than anything, is just how, like, because you can find consistency and make content, but I think the harder thing to come to terms with content creation is there's only so much of it that you control. Like, there's a lot of factors that are out of your hands. Like, yeah, you can have the right SEO and the right optimization, but at the end of the day, the algorithm is going to do what it's going to do. At the end of the day, we could wake up tomorrow and Google could just decide, hey, we're slashing ad share on across the board on YouTube, and we're now taking 80%. And that's that. What are we going to do? Call Google and negotiate? Like, hey, actually, I don't agree to this. Okay, fuck off. Go to a different platform. So it's compared to making your own business, in a lot of cases where you at least have you have control over your business. There is that overarching aspect where our businesses are ultimately in the control of Google or Twitch or TikTok. And at the end of the day, you are really at the whims of the platform. There's not a whole lot you can do there. Like, I mean, I know people that have had issues where like their video, like they weren't getting their videos just stopped getting monetized, or there was a mistake and they didn't get paid out for months. And like, what do you do in that situation? So I think to me, that would be the biggest challenge, because it's an element that you don't have control over, and the best you can do is just prepare as well as you can, which can be difficult.
Yeah, especially like I know that there are a lot of creators who don't prepare that plan B, and that YouTube is just all they have.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things of where like it might be an interesting thing to dive into. What would you do, like if YouTube decided to just take a shit and not exist anymore in the way that we know it now? What would be your alternative that you would go to?
I mean, my first would be just looking at other platforms. Obviously, I have a background in usability and systems engineering, so I know like one of my long-term things is I'd love to start just my own consultation group that specifically looks at usability and playability in games. So like looking at stuff in alpha beta stage and looking for areas where it's like, we could improve this. The player experience is going to be arduous here. there's very small things we could change here to make it a lot easier for players to just pick up and run with. Because unfortunately, common sense isn't that common, and there's a lot of design decisions we see in games that just they don't make sense. So I think that's something that I would love to do, kind of combining those two aspects of my professional life together. Unless I like fully retired from content creation, I don't think I really have the time to pursue that. But that's always been something in the back of my mind that would be fun. I've also thought about just straight taking what I've made and opening like a bar, like a fun karaoke bar, or like a barcade or something. I think I live in an area where something like that would do really well. And so, it's I don't know. My kind of thing is like if content creation, if it were to ever just stop, so be it. It is what it is. I would probably just look at avenues to start a different business, but I think I'm in a unique position where a lot of content creators don't have that history. They started with YouTube, and like my thing is I started, by the time I started this, I was already done college. I already had my master's. I was already in my professional career. So like that's a big safety net of experience. If YouTube ever did disappear, well, I still have a master's in systems engineering and 10 years of experience in both systems and usability optimization, along with the experience that comes along with SEO optimization and YouTube content creation. So I feel like there's a double skill set there that I can apply elsewhere if need be.
Yeah. No, that's incredible though, to be able to kind of be like a chameleon and be that malleable with certain things. It's really beneficial. On my end, I would probably go into script writing for movies if anything ever failed, because I love writing. Continue video editing, obviously, because that's my passion at the end of the day. But I would continue my degree in psychiatry and go and be a counselor, like a drug and alcohol counselor. Because before I started YouTube, that's originally what I was going to do in Pennsylvania, actually. But, other things and other passions decided to get in the way. And I'm like, okay, let's try this for right now. Yeah. But yeah, I absolutely love how the brain works. And I always love trying to see people become the best versions of themselves. So that could be like a possible thing if, as a retirement in the future, if I ever decided, I want to go back to school for my master's. So, so it's really interesting. This is just to say for you guys like who are listening, always have a plan B. Always understand that like life has so much abundance to it that it's doing a disservice to yourself, in my opinion, to just lock yourself in and only think about one route and one thing. I feel like everyone should always broaden their horizons to multiple different things, but that's just me. But one of the final topics I want to get into with today is one of the things that I kept saying around when Monster Hunter actually came out was everybody was, I don't know if it's a meme now, I don't know what it is, but everyone was saying like, oh, this character is mommy. I'm like, what does it mean? And you could probably break this down for me because you were calling this character mommy all the time on social media. It was the blonde girl, the one who had like the side cut, the side shave. And I was thinking to myself, yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, what does this term mean? Am I just old that I don't get why people call characters mommy?
So the mommy thing starts as it's basically a meme that is used to express horny around women that are more powerful and put together or bigger. You think like a small petite woman, nobody thinks mommy. But then you see Gemma with, not big arms, but like clearly she's forging. She's got some muscles on her. She has the big bosom, big like sexy mommy vibes. And so you have it goes into this culture of like, oh, mommy, step on me. Like,
so
mommy it's just internet horniness. That's all it is.
Would Abby from Last of Us be mommy then?
No, Abby's probably too butch. I think people would feel, because I think that there's a specific differentiation with mommy vibes where you still have to be traditionally pretty to qualify for mommy vibes. I think like a good example in the weightlifting industry, there's a professional female weightlifter. Her name's Lean Beef Patty. I think she's beautiful. But there's a lot of people who are like, oh no, she's too muscular. Like to me, she still has mommy vibes, but I think she's right. I think she is a good discussion of the cusp, because there are lots of people who are like, no, she's too muscular for a woman. And on my side of the things, I'm like, nah. Like I'll eat charcuterie off her fucking abs. Let's go.
That's the title of the podcast now.
But I mean, there are people. It's just the idea of like a woman who is clearly powerful, who clearly has some type of musculature, usually a large bosom, that people are horny for. That's what it boils down to. Now but if you're too powerful, then men feel
they just feel emasculated.
Yeah, emasculated. Like, oh no, she could overpower me. Oh, I'm scared.
That's just so like, it's so weird, because I feel so old for not knowing that. And so many people were bringing it up. It's like I have to talk. I have to discuss this
just
now.
people that are horny for her. That's all it is.
Oh my god. And it's so like, you actually went into the next topic that I was going to discuss perfectly, because I have not worked out in over, I think, a month. 2 days ago, I went into it doing leg day, and that was a terrible decision. When I say I can't move an inch off of the damn toilet, it was a terrible decision, Cowboy. Because whenever I discuss working out with people, they're like, oh, we think of it as a chore, we think of it this. I love it. I don't know about you, but working out has become a hobby for me.
Yeah, no, I like working out. It's fun. And there's a couple days where you can't really walk that well, but usually that's just an issue of not enough protein, no. Not enough BCAAs, not enough stretching or recovery. Like there's always going to be a recovery period, especially if you're getting back into it for the first time. Like I powerlift 3 times a week, and we're pushing for a top end squat set right now. So we had like a really big leg cycle, and I like went for the 500, barely missed it. And then after that, still had like a 225 A ramp, had leg extensions at 55 AMRAP, had hammy extensions, AMRAP, had, so by the end of this, I had done like after building up to the peak, still did like 12 at 225, did 100 at 55 on leg extensions, squeaked out like 15 on hammy extensions, and then had something else. And so by the time we were done, I was like a baby giraffe trying to walk around, and just exhausted. But like that was the goal of this workout, is like, all right, we're almost at 500. I need just like a little more push. I'm gonna push my muscles to the absolute peak of failure, and then protein load and bath and ice and heat, and do everything I can to promote muscle recovery.
Yeah.
And then try and hit it again next week.
The ice bath is one thing of where I want to try so much, but I'm so afraid my asthma is going to flip a shit with me, because so many people have been telling me, Ariel, you have asthma, you can't do the ice bath. It's like, well, let's see what happens. So,
I mean, as long as you're slow about it, like, I mean, it's like anything. I wouldn't suggest anybody, like, you always see the videos of like the dude, like, especially like NFL, they just jump in the ice bath. But what people tend to forget is like they are doing that constantly. Their body has already had a chance to adjust to that. Nobody you don't just dive into ice water for the very first time. Like, you're going to send your system into shock, which, I mean, if that's the goal, sure. But if you have asthma or some kind of pre-existing condition, yeah, maybe sit on the edge of the tub and get your feet in first. And then be like, okay, we're going to go a little bit lower. And then you're kneeling in the water. Okay, let's sink up to the stomach. And okay, let's fully submerge up to the neck. But like, it's got to be like, fuck it, here we go, and just dive in.
No, that's kind of doing that will send your body into shock. But yeah, when it comes to like different things, like, I feel like it's so interesting to, have a gaming channel talk about working out, but it's one of those things of where I try to make these podcasts have different topics all around. So if it seems weird to people, I'm sorry, you're just getting what you're getting. Shut the fuck up. So when we're going into more different kinds of workouts, I wanted to point out the fact that, like, when I started back into workouts, I used Pilates because of the asthma. I don't know how, excuse me, how that would necessarily work for a lot of people, but that got my heart rate up so much. I don't know if you strictly use weights or if you do like a combination of anything.
I mean, so I primarily powerlift, which is generally heavyweight, low reps. I'm coming towards the end of that journey because the only goal I have left is a 500-pound squat. I've cleared everything else I wanted to do. I've passed 315 bench. My deadlift's past 225 or 525. The only reason I'm even doing 500 squat is because my squat was like 400, and then we did like multiple leg cycles and revisited it, and I crushed 425, and then we loaded up 475, and I crushed that, and I was like, well, I'm 25 pounds away from 500. I feel like I might as well fucking do it, just to be like, yeah, I did that. But once I do that, everything is gonna be probably dropping down to more lower weight and rep ranges, like a 350 for like a 3x5 or something. I think that would still feel like a nice amount of healthy amount of squat. But I'm gonna hit that 500 first, and then change things up and go more into maintenance.
That's really good. No, I wish you luck
But
with
yeah,
that
no,
because that is intense.
Cardio. I have a bit of a complicated relationship with. I mean, I've done boxing, I've done rowing, I've done running. Um, me and cardio don't get along. I don't like cardio. I want to move heavy weight. Like that feels good. Like, yanking up 415 for reps. Let's go. I'm all about it. Running for 30 minutes, fucking end me right now. I don't want to do this. And I think it's because I used to run. I did distance running, cross country, track all throughout high school when I was younger. Um, Frankly, I'm just not built for that kind of cardio. I'm like, I'm 6'1", around 260, 265. Like, it's a lot of fucking weight to be running and having that shit hit my knees. I like swimming. But I think the other thing too is cardio in general, outside of boxing. I think boxing and martial arts were the only form of cardio where I had like a lot of fun. Cardio is very monotonous. I'm probably saying that wrong. I always fuck up that word, but it's just like the only way I can reasonably do cardio is if I just hop on the treadmill and I put something on the TV, because I get so fucking bored just running for 30 minutes. So I'm like, well, in 30 minutes I could have done a full squat set from warm up to top set to back down. And that whole time, I like how you can, as you're moving weight, you feel your muscles priming. You feel when you're pushing. You feel when it's time to back down. When you're running, it's just the same dull ache for like 30 minutes of hell.
Also, I think it's pronounced monotonous. Now, who can't pronounce words, Cowboy?
Yeah.
Huh? No, okay.
Part of my charm.
Yeah, not being able to pronounce words like placid.
I think that one just ties up your tongue a bit.
Placido Domingo.
I've been doing a lot of early workouts just because it's more a case of like I'll go out, I'll hit up the gym, I'll grab lunch after, which is good. I like to get out of the way while the kids are in school. That way I can come home, bang out a stream, and then spend time with them. But the problem is that I'm usually going in and I'm lifting, and the only thing I've had is like I drink these like protein shakes that are coffee flavored in the morning instead of coffee now. So I've had that and maybe a fruit bar. And when that's the only thing on your stomach, and you're like, okay, time for a top set of 3x5 at fucking 450, your body is just screaming for fucking fuel. It's like, please stop and go eat. So it's been interesting. I mean, any day we're doing like a top set, like we're maxing out, I usually try to lift in the evening instead. That way I've like had dinner, ready, well rested, and wide awake. But there's something easier about morning workouts. It's just, it's nice to just get it out of the way.
Yeah, especially like if you've had proper food in your system. Yeah, it really is. I mean, after I have breakfast, I normally go, and the most that I can lift at this point is like almost 200, and that's pushing it a little bit. It's weird because like getting back into lifting and getting back into doing that mixed in with Pilates, I actually have to go to a gym in order to do lifting because I only have like 5 to 10 pounds here, which is nothing. So it's one of those weird like confluxes of where like, do I do this? And it gets scary. I don't know like why it gets nerve wracking. First, like I haven't lifted in like, I want to say over a year and a half. And this was the first time when I got back into it. So
what are you doing right now? Like do you have someone programming, or are you just kind of like
just going in blind with everything, honestly?
I would honestly, I'd hire a trainer to program. I think that's the the number, because you could get somebody to at least program for probably like $100. And I think the number one mistake people make getting back into lifting is they're like, fuck it, I remember what I used to do. I'm gonna do some squats and some pull-ups and this, and they end up like doing this haphazard program, and they either overexert themselves or they hurt themselves or they do something with incorrect form that exacerbates a pre-existing injury. Like, it is, if you're serious about trying to make fitness a part of your regular life, I highly recommend a trainer. Like what I do right now, I mean, I probably don't need my guy anymore outside of programming, but I've been with him for so long. We just go on 4-week cycles. So he'll program for me, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, first week of the cycle, we'll meet up at the gym. We'll just run through form checks on everything, make sure I'm doing it exactly how I'm supposed to be doing it. If we're doing like a max set, I have him there to spot that day, and then I'll run 3 weeks solo on my own, and then we'll start a new cycle. And it's the same thing. So we're just consistently going through, and especially for like new movements, or even, I mean, there's and part of this is he's been a competitive powerlifter for years, and like the amount of things I learned from him that improved like my bench, my squat, my deadlift, like just small form differences. And I think obviously finding the right trainer is a part of it. But I started lifting like back in high school, and it was just me and the boys in the garage or in the basement, just like, yeah, let's move weights. Like, this is how we do it. And like, there's so much shit that you have as preconceptions around lifting. Like, back in the day when I squatted, I never externally rotated in terms of like my hips or my knees or braced properly, and changing all of that, or doing like a low bar squat versus a high bar squat, and the differences and how that's going to work based on like your biophysiology. And now, like, dude, I do a low bar squat and I get proper external rotation. That's how I'm working up towards 500. Back in the day, I wouldn't have had my knees locked the way I needed to. I probably would have been high bar squat, like right up here, right on the edge of the neck. I would have just fucking folded trying to pick up that much weight. And now I'm throwing it on my back and just walking it out and getting in position. So there's a lot of stuff. I mean, obviously training is part of it, but there is a lot of shit that I learned working with a trainer that knew what he was talking about, that I just never would have. Yeah. So I mean, like, I know it's big these days, like watching YouTube videos and shit, but even then there's a lot to be learned by working with someone one-on-one and running through cues on form and various things that you may not be doing, and especially having them watch you. They can tell you like, hey, you're not, you gotta take in that breath before you go down, or hey, your legs are starting to cave. We're going to do banded squats. So like, one of the things I did to build up my knee strength is we dropped the weight down to where it was like 225, and instead I would have a band that's around my knees that's trying to force them to stay in. So you're actively pushing to keep your knees outward and locked as you're squatting, because that's a big thing that people, yeah, because that's a big thing people struggle with on squats, is they'll go down, and then as they come up, their knees start caving in, and you're just losing more and more power. Or like learning to properly like root your feet down, or externally rotate out your hips up so that you can actually get down lower, because you're not impinging on your own your own hips. But those are yeah, it's just, those are cues that I would not have learned without working with a trainer.
That's some really good advice, actually, because yeah, whenever I go in, I just go in blinds, and I probably should not do that, considering the fact of where like the one thing of where I should listen to people, like yourself and others, of where like people tell me not to work out alone because I have low blood pressure, and not to work out alone as well because I dislocated my knee in high school, and that could cause like injury and all that kind of stuff later in life. But the thing is like, I got mainly back into working out because like I turned 33 this year, so it's like I'm not getting any younger. I want to be able to just treat myself with more respect and just work out more, because I
was the same as when we had my son. I was like, all right, I need to, you have kids and everything changes. You're like, all right, health needs to become a fucking priority, because it's not just me surviving for me, it's I need to stay alive for them. Mm-hmm. So I think that changes everything.
Yeah, it does, And I love talking about this kind of stuff because it also, brings kind of this awareness to, of where, you're not just being healthy for you, you're being healthy for the people around you as well. So the last topic I actually want to dive into is what you're going to be covering next, if you can talk about it, if it's not like rooted in NDA type stuff.
So right now there's definitely there's a lot that's up in the air. Expedition 33 is the next obvious thing. I plan on streaming that. If the Oblivion remake actually comes out next week, that's an obvious shoe-in as episodic coverage on the channel. I played Oblivion obviously back in the day, but this is long before I started content creation, so it would be fun to revisit that. And then that would probably take me all the way up to May, which is where we get like Nightreign, Lost Soulside, and Doom and all that.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah.
So it's right now everything hinges on that. If that doesn't come out, I was considering doing a Lies of P walkthrough, which I don't think that game needs a walkthrough, but people keep asking for it, so it's more of a fine, fuck it, I'll do it. It doesn't need it, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah, it's really linear. I wouldn't think that it would need one, but okay.
I don't think it does either, but it's the most ever, like, God, I think anytime I've played a Souls-like and Lies of P has come up, there's been are you going to do a walkthrough? And every time I'm like, it's not that linear, and people are like, I would still appreciate it. And I'm like,
fuck.
Okay. Is what it is.
That's kind of really. I didn't know that was one of the more requested ones because it just seemed like so obvious to a degree. But maybe that's just me.
I thought it was very linear. I didn't think it was needed for one, but I think one person said that even despite the linearness, they would appreciate the walkthrough because of the way that I break down bosses and talk about approaches to them and whatnot, and how to go through levels, how to tackle various groups. And I'm like, all right, I guess that makes sense. So
yeah. I mean, I can understand that from the boss perspective because definitely, with the the three bunnies and everything like that was chaotic. I did not enjoy that one at all whatsoever.
That one gets a lot of people, I think.
Yeah, that was an interesting one because, I love the way that they did it, but then you got one big Unga Bunga guy who just decides to come in and be obnoxious, and that's when I'm just like, okay, just throw the whole thing out. But one of the next games I'm going to be diving into currently, I'm in the middle of playing the first Mass Effect. I've never played any of the Mass Effect games before. It's interesting.
Are you doing just one or hitting the whole trilogy up?
Whole trilogy, yeah. I want to be able to get the entire experience. I just finished last night, actually, the last episode of my playthrough for the Trespasser DLC for Dragon Age Inquisition, and so many people were telling me to play that, and they were not wrong. I bawled like a baby. It was absolutely amazing, and I fucking hate Stolas. So, he is a great character, but oh my god, I can't stand him.
Yeah, they definitely set him up for his role as a villain in Vanguard.
Oh my god, now I see where they get everything and all the mirrors, everything, and they set it up absolutely perfectly. But yeah, I'm working on my review for that one currently, and then I'm going to be diving into, of course, Clair Obscura, all the new games that are coming out. Very excited to see how, what is it? Now I'm spacing on the name. Oh, how Nightreign is going to be reviewed, because you would think that as well as Lies of P, that one's a little more linear in terms of the play style and your objective, because when you go into Elden Ring, you could basically do anything that you want, but with here, you have a clear goal, so I'm really eager to see how that's going to be approached.
Yeah, it'll be, I think it'll be probably the most divisive FromSoft title so far.
Yeah, no, it's Dark Souls 2.0 all over again. But Dark Souls 2 was really, really good, I have to say. I really enjoyed my time with that one. But I digress. I do have to say, thank you so much for joining me and my lack of memory, because apparently I'm already fucking 95 years old when it comes to certain things. But it was really fun having you on. And thank you so much for joining me again for another podcast talking about literally everything under the sun.
Yeah, thanks for bringing me on.
Yeah, of course. But if you guys like our faces and what we do, please be sure to subscribe and hit that bell down below. I have a lot of content coming to the channel. Be sure to subscribe to Fightin Cowboy, because he has a lot of content coming to his channel as well. Make sure to have just everything prepared with your coffee. May it treat you well, and may life give you a nat 20, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye, you guys.